Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. It's quite a challenge to speak after so many moving words. I perhaps wish I had spoken up front, but I'll do my best to give credit to this bill. So over the last few weeks and leading up to the passage of this bill, I think I've had a lot of opportunity to reflect on the purpose of law and what it is it does in our society. So, I mean, certainly one of the things it does is the obvious thing, and that's to give remedy. In the case of this particular law, that remedy was probably already available through case law. But the reason this is so important in any event is because of the educational value that law holds for us in our society. So, you know, we as lawmakers, we as the people who sit here in this House, we have a real critical role to act as the voice of the people and to voice their feelings and their will, if you will. And one of the things this bill does is it sends that signal that we, the people of Alberta, stand with the trans and gender variant community, that we feel that they are entitled to equal rights, that we feel they should not be discriminated against, and that we will stand up for those rights. And I think this signals to the wider population that that is our feeling, that we as lawmakers feel that equal rights are important and that they should be extended to everyone. So I think that educational value is absolutely instrumental, particularly now, because this bill is, Madam Speaker, in my view, just a first step. This bill signals the government and the whole House's commitment to move forward on these issues, but more than that, it tells the population what it is we're thinking, and it allows us to start taking additional steps and to start having additional conversations, because oftentimes people who would speak against a bill of this nature would do so out of fear. And it's that fear that ultimately we're here to combat. And the thing that will best combat that fear is education and is information. You know, people unfortunately often fear change and what they don't know. And if I were to speak to those people, what I would say to them is that this small change in society, which they may fear, which may cause anxiety in them, is nothing compared to the changes that members of this community have to experience in their daily lives. In order to simply be who they are, they have to go through an incredible process of recognizing who they are, of being willing to stand up and tell the people around them. You know, I don't think that most of us recognize, and I'm not sure that I understood before we did the consultation with respect to this bill, that simply standing up each day and having the people around you understand who you are through the expressions that you have of that is a really critical value. And to have people misunderstand who you are and to have to stand up to them and to face the fear that they will reject you on that basis, I think is just an overwhelming demonstration on courage on the part of individuals in the trans and gender variant community. And so I think that, you know, when we as a society face a change like this, I think that we need to understand that whatever anxiety people out there may feel, it's nothing compared to what these incredibly brave individuals have gone through just to be accepted as who they are. So one interesting aspect of this bill for me personally is that when I was originally standing for election, one of the very first questions I got asked through my brand new email was about this specific issue. And so one of my very first commitments as an individual politician was to this specific issue, to make these amendments. And so I really think for me it's a sort of a very moving expression of democracy, to have had a value and to have had the opportunity to now stand in this House and to act on that value and to act to protect Albertans who deserve that protection, who need that protection, who simply want to stand and be who they are. So for me, this has been an incredibly moving experience. I mean, my reasons, and I'm sure everyone in this House has reasons that they stood for election, because it's not, as you will be aware, a particularly easy process. My reasons for that were to increase political discourse, because I felt that the values that I saw in my fellow Albertans, and I've lived in Alberta my whole life, were not necessarily reflected in the policies of the government of that day. I felt that if Albertans stood together and we discussed our values, that we might see that we stood in a different place than we appeared to the rest of the world to be standing. And so it's just a real honor to ultimately be able to stand up and to reflect those values as a government. You know, one of the things we heard in consultation from people was how welcome they felt here in this legislature and in this government. And I think that that is absolutely critical, because all people should be able to come to this place and feel welcome. This is the place for the people. And to hear that is just, it's so incredibly moving that we would have this opportunity, that I could stand here with my colleagues and have this opportunity to make people feel like they are part of our wider Alberta community and that they are valued within our community. I think that that is just an incredible honor. Okay. So I'll move on, because apparently I've been speaking for a while. So I think one of the critical things to recognize with this, and one of the things that I've certainly heard in comments that have been sent to my office or social media, is that this is a soft issue. And I just want to make it really clear that this is not a soft issue. I had the opportunity to attend in Calgary the Transgender Day of Remembrance, and I have to tell you, Madam Speaker, that list of names was long and troubling and disheartening. And at the ceremony I attended, they read out the age of the people, and they were as young as 10. So, and this, I mean, these were names of people who had died due to violence because of their gender identity or expression. So I think that this is a really critical issue. The other thing that I wanted to make absolutely clear is that for this government, this is not an end. It is a beginning. So in my ministry, one of the things we are working on right now is to adopt a best practice policy from other jurisdictions with respect to correctional institutes. Because certainly for anyone who has come into conflict with the law, going into a correctional institute is an overwhelming and difficult process for anyone, and to then be housed in an incorrect institution because you are identified by a different gender is really, I think, very, very challenging. So so the other issues that we'll be working with going forward have to do with access to medical care, and ultimately, you know, what we really need to work on is changing, you know, the views of those around us, so that everyone is equally committed, so that everyone, rather than feeling fear when they encounter a trans or gender variant person, rather than having that experience of fear, that they should have an experience of feeling the need to support, so that people can access, you know, housing, doctors, jobs, that they have sort of a comprehensive policy. And I suppose the last thing I will say is that we will, as a government, be examining our policies with respect to instances in which we require people to identify their gender, because sometimes it can be difficult to change and sometimes it's unnecessary. So I guess in closing, what I'd like to say is that I'm incredibly honored to stand here today with this bill, and I am incredibly honored to have the support of the entire House moving forward, and I'm really glad that we finally get the opportunity to get this done.